Thanks so much for joining me on this rainy Thursday. Hopefully, we'll see some sun for this weekend. I know these summer days are all too fleeting. If I haven't got a chance to meet you, my name is Colleen DeLang. I've been an agent now for 23 years. Makes me feel very old when I say it that way. And I'm going to show you some time saving tips and techniques, things that I wish I knew many years ago when I started using Paragon. I actually wrote this class on all the things I wish I would have known to make it easier to search, easier to set clients up, find saved searches, navigate. Things like showing time carts, how to put things in smart routes so I don't have to grab my phone all the time to figure out where do I start, where do I stop. So I'm going to show you all those bells and whistles that I wish I would have known long ago. All right, so terrific. I am going to actually turn off my fuzzy hair. We're going to get into it. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to just fire them off in the questions box. But with that, with all this rain, I look just like a Q-tip today. So we're just going to turn that off and get right to your screen. So first and foremost, I wanted to announce we're very excited here because we started our data sharing initiatives 12 years ago when we set up the GLR, and we are literally almost there. We wanted to have statewide data sharing, not one MLS, don't get me wrong. What we want is where consumers now can find everything on sites like Zillow and Realtor.com and all these other sites, right? So we want to be able to find it faster. We want to have more information, and we can do that through our data sharing. I'm excited to announce that we are 97% of the state now, more than any other MLS in Michigan. I always get the same question, well, doesn't it all go to the same place? Nope, I'm proud to say that we have many exclusive data shares just for my RealSource members that you don't get in other MLSs. So thanks for being a member with us. Thanks for helping us grow. And we're down to 3 more MLSs. There's one, unfortunately, that we can't data share with because you don't have to be a realtor. It's kind of a private MLS. So that one we probably won't. But I had no idea in the state of Michigan there were 34 MLSs. I don't know if you knew that. I did not know that. Most states have 3 or 4. So you can imagine how challenging it is with all these unique fields in each MLS, mapping it into data sharing. So I am excited to say we're almost there where we now can see all of the listings in the state we're licensed for, right? Just kind of makes sense. All right, so let's get into what we're here for, and that is how to search more efficiently. How do you find things faster? I know one of the things I want to show you is something we built here at my RealSource, and really it came about from a lot of complaining from me and some of the other realtors on our staff, because I don't like it when people call and they found 10 addresses on Zillow and I can't find it faster than they can all at once. I was putting them in one at a time in the address search, and what a pain in the neck. What if I told you that today I'm going to show you a field where you can enter up to 30 addresses on one line, pull them all up, and with one click, text them over to your clients? I'm going to show you that. You can also copy and paste into this same field. So let's say we're going to use Lisa. She was kind enough to help us. Let's say Lisa just got an email from her buyer. He found 20 houses on Zillow. We can literally copy and paste those 20 addresses into one field, hit enter, and pull up everything quickly and efficiently. And I know what you're thinking. Well, it's about time, right? So let's go ahead and get at it. We're going to cover a couple of different shortcuts today. Things, again, I wish I had known a long time ago. And where we're going to start today is the single power search right up here at the top. So I'm going to show you several different ways to search today. The power search is really if you are looking for one address, one MLS number, one agent that you want to quickly look up. It's really what this power search is here at the top. Now, mine may look a little bit different than yours if you're looking at the screen and saying, geez, that doesn't look anything like my Paragon. Well, it just depends which brokerage you're at and which board you belong to in what's in your center section. The side panels may look slightly different on your dashboard because you can actually move them around. I'm going to let you know a little tip. When I first started using Paragon, I hated the layout. The Paragon News, national news was at the top. Who cares about that? We want to know what is our appointment that we set up this morning in showing time? Is it confirmed? Is there a new listing in the market I'm watching? We want to know, did my client log in and did they find any new matches on their homes? It's the stuff we really want to know. So, what I would encourage you to do is, as an agent, feel free to move these widgets around. All you do is grab the top box here and you can put them in any order you want. This is my particular order. I like my quick search over here on the right because I'm right-handed, just makes more sense. So feel free to kind of customize that. I'm telling you, the Paragon news at the top that's national, not going to help you. What you really want to see is, did you get any showings on your new listing yesterday? Have your appointments been confirmed? You want to have it in a layout that actually works for agents. Okay. So thank you, Wendy, for letting me know. I just turned my camera off. I can turn it back on here if that's helpful. Okay. All right. So when you're searching, the power search up here at the top really is your friend. So let's say I am gonna pull up my listing here just for the sake of time. I'm gonna say that if I want to quickly find an address, the last thing I want to do is I do not want to have to put a lot of information in. If somebody just called me and they want to know, hey, is 123 Cherry Street still available? I'll just use that one. I can't remember the exact address. There we go. It's bad when you can't remember your own listing address. If I want to find 123 Cherry Street, I can literally just type it in this power search. Actives and pendings are always going to come up to the top. But as you can see, 123 Cherry Street actually has closed a few times. If I want to see all of those records at once, all I have to do is click on this listings 10, and it's going to immediately pull up all of those records for me. Okay, so really easy. If you're trying to find one property or one MLS number fast, this is a great way to do that. And again, you could actually enter multiple MLS numbers in here with a comma, but there's a better field, a better place, I think, to do that. So again, if you have a property, they just called in and they're like, hey, can you tell me about 123 Cherry Lane? All you need to do is type that in the power search. That's going to pull that right up for you. And now I can go ahead and either pull up all the records if it's closed multiple times, or if I'm just looking for, the 123 Cherry Street that's active or pending that they're calling me on, I can see that right away too. Okay, so that's a good example of this power search at the top. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, I was going to use my listing as an example. I can't remember the exact street address, which is really bad. But if you want to find your listings easily, that's really what this market monitor is set up for. So if I click on my info here, it's going to show me listings I have coming up for expiration. It's going to show me all of my listings, and right now I currently only have one. So if I click on that listing, that number 1 there, it's going to pull me directly into that specific listing. It's 16962. I kept doing 196. So if I want to open up that specific listing, I simply click on that MLS number. It's going to take me right into that listing ticket, and this way I can access all of that information. Now, of course, if you needed to schedule a showing on a property, you have that single property scheduler. However, I'm going to show you a way better way in just a couple of minutes of how you can throw multiple properties into a showing time cart, how you can actually route them in the logical driving order, how on the fly you can add multiple, let's say that you got your whole tour set up and your buyer called and said, Lisa, I want to add one more listing. You can actually go in, add that specific listing and add them right to your tour. You can also create driving directions for your buyer so they don't have to call Lisa and say, hey, which house are you seeing first? What's the next house we're seeing? You can actually send them those driving directions and it will show them each stop. So it's got some cool features. We're going to cover that too. One of the things that you get as a My Real Source member is anytime you put a listing into Paragon, we want you to be able to share it out onto social media, share it in a host of places, but we want you to get the lead back. And so many times I still see agents, great agents too out there, that are sharing from Zillow or Redfin or these other sites or Realtor.com. And basically, they're taking all their hard work, right? They're doing all these great photos. They're writing captions and descriptions. They're putting in their comments. And guess what happens? Now you share it out, and 5 people who just bought that zip code captured your lead that you just worked so hard on. Doesn't make any sense to me. So here's a better way. On every single listing that you put into Paragon, you will see this kind of blue icon right here with a little check mark on it. You see that? That is your own single property website. There is nothing you have to do. This is all done behind the scenes for you. And so when I go in, here is the information about the home. Now, by the way, this is mobile friendly. If you have a Matterport tour or a virtual tour around the property, they're going to be able to see that. If you have a branded tour, like let's say Lisa says, hi, this is Lisa. I work at ABC Brokerage, and let me take you through my new listing. It will even pick up your branded tours with your contact information in there. So that's key. I'm going to talk about that in a couple of minutes too. But as you can see, it's going to give high resolution photos. And the cool thing about this, it's ADA compliant. As you can see here, it's set up so if someone's visually impaired, they can still basically walk through the home. So it's got a lot of great tools that are already built in here. And it's mobile compatible, so whether they're looking on an iPad or on their phone, it's going to open to the appropriate size. It's got that easy to read, user-friendly layout that consumers are familiar with. And of course, it's got the mapping view. If they're on their phone, they can be connected to you in just one click. They can, of course, ask questions about the property. And if you have other listings at the bottom, you're going to see your other listings as well as 90 days of your closed and pending sales too. In case let's say Lisa got her clients 50 grand over asking and is sold in 7 days cash, she might want to promote that onto Facebook. And so very easy to share these items as well. So if you go over here, I'm going to move my GoToWebinar panel. It might be in your way. It's kind of over here to the right, but you can say it's easy to share to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, email it out, LinkedIn. So let's say I want to post this on Facebook. I can go ahead. The first time that it will ask you to log in, the first time you can share it to a page you manage. You can, if you have a private page, like we have our KWL private page, I can share it to there. If you want to share it to a group, maybe you have a business page, however you want to share it. And a little tip, if you're like me, I kind of always like to be the guinea pig first to test it out, see how it's going to look. You can always change your audience from friends to only me. That way you get to see it first. Make sure you're comfortable with exactly how to post. I like to also just copy and paste my MLS descriptions here. And it's a really easy way to share your listings. And no matter who shares the listing afterward, it's going to then make sure that they see you and your contact information. And that way you don't have to worry that, oh my gosh, I just worked so hard on my lead and it went to Joe Schmgegi over here. It's going to make sure that that lead is seeing your contact information and they can be directly connected to you. So again, this is called our single property website. This is added on every single listing automatically for you when you enter it into Paragon. It should take about 30 minutes to appear on your listing because it actually goes to a website designer. They build it in 30 minutes. You'll see this little icon that will appear right here on the listing ticket. You'll also get an email in that time as well. And then you can go ahead and start sharing your property onto social media. All right, so quick little tip there. Another thing that this power search is good for is if you were, let's say, working with an agent, you want to go ahead and quickly find their contact information so that you can go and, let's say, send your offer to them. You can also type in an agent name and then quickly find their contact information. Many times it'll even show you a listing inventory that they have here as well when you're typing in their name. So it's just a quick way. Again, if you're trying to find one agent, one MLS number, or one property address, that's a really quick and easy way to do it without having to put a lot of information in. All right, so as I mentioned, if you're looking for your listings, the quickest way to go right to them, go to your market monitor, click on my info. You can see previous solds, open houses you have coming up, pending listings. Your listing will be there. So you can quickly see market inventory. In this market, let's face it, there's not a lot of inventory out there. So if you are watching a specific market, this is a way that you can actually go up to your market monitor, click on this little widget, and you can type in the areas that you're watching. So if you're tired of having to run searches each and every time, I'll give you a couple examples. Let's say that I have quite a few clients that are looking in Oakland and Macomb County. They want to know if anything is new. I want to keep my eye on that market because it's hot. I can simply start typing in those counties or multiple cities if you prefer. And every time I go in, I don't have to search for those things. They're right there in front of me in my market monitor. You can even customize your market monitor further by saying, do you want it to open to the market or your info? And how many days back do you want to go? Our particular brokerage has multiple offices. So, of course, we want to sell in-house inventory first when we can. So I can see what's actually going on in my brick and mortar office. Or if I want to check all the offices, I can even select firm and I can see the listings firm wide right here. So it's a really easy way to right away go into either your inventory or maybe a market you're watching, or just see what's new within your office or firm too. Okay. So your takeaway so far is if you're searching for one thing, this power search is great. But let's say that you are taking some floor time and you just got a call and you got a client who says, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom home in Sterling Heights. Here's my price range. Can you help me out? Then that's generally a good quick search example. But I use the quick search for something that I think you'll like even more. Remember when I said that I was complaining because consumers were finding the information faster on these consumer sites than I could find it? And what we built is a field called full addresses. Now, this is not to be confused with the address field because there's an address field. There's also a multiple address field. But this one is called full addresses. And I'm going to show you how to add it if you don't have it currently. But what this is for is if Lisa just got a call and they said, I'm interested in information on 123 Cherry Street, 456 West Street. Let's say 16962 Inkster. Now that I know the right address. And you can actually start just typing in as many addresses as they fire off, up to 30 at one time, and it's automatically going to pull those up for you. So let me show you what I mean. You can also, let's say that you know that they're probably active or pending. You don't want to get a ton. So maybe I just want actives and pendings so that I'm just looking at the listings that they might be calling in on. But what's cool about this full addresses field is when we were designing how this was going to work, you don't have to do anything else for the ways, the boulevard. So let's say this is 123 Cherry Boulevard. Even though it's Cherry Boulevard or Cherry Lane or Cherry Court, you don't have to do anything else because there is actually a hidden built-in wildcard behind the word Cherry. And what that means is when you're looking for properties, it's automatically pulling up anything with way, court, boulevard, circle, any of those street directionals behind it. Now, let's say that Lisa is looking for one that they call her and they say, Lisa, I'm on Gratiot. I'm not sure if it's northbound Gratiot or southbound Gratiot. Here's where I am. And Lisa wants to make sure she's getting the record. Then you could do 123 asterisk Gratiot. So that will allow me to pull up anything that's northbound Gratiot, southbound Gratiot, however they have it in the system, whatever pre-directional is there, that asterisk works kind of like a wild card. So it will still allow you to find it. So hopefully that makes sense. You can add up to 30 addresses in at once. You can add an asterisk if you don't know if it's northbound Gratiot, eastbound Gratiot, but you don't have to worry about any end directionals like circle, quartz, or ways. Those are already built in. That hidden asterisk already makes sure it's pulling up everything for you. So I love that. I think it's easy to find, multiple addresses faster, giving us the advantage because there's nothing worse than when the consumer, again, is finding information quicker than we, the trusted professional, right? So I want to be able to put them all in one field, hit enter, and return those search results. All right, so your next tip here, if you don't have the full addresses, or yesterday I was training in Grosse Pointe and had an agent who said, you know what, Colleen, we just want to be able to search. I do a lot of Detroit properties. It's so big. I want to be able to search by zip code easily. How do I do that? So remember the thing about Paragon, and I apologize for having a thunderstorm. So if you hear a lot of background lightning and thunder, a lot of noise, it's not a dog barking or anything. It's just thunder outside my window. It never fails. You start a webinar, you have a thunderstorm. Okay, so if you are looking to search a particular way, the nice thing about Paragon is that you can customize Paragon to search however you want. Lisa Nolf, who's out here in my area quite often, she might want to add acreage. She's listing a lot out in Richmond where I live, and we have a lot more vacant land and acreage out here too. So maybe she wants to have acreage in the top of her quick search, or maybe she really likes this full address and doesn't have it in her quick search. Let me show you how not only with the quick search, but any searching in Paragon, you can customize it. So let's take a look up here in our quick search where that edit widget is. You're going to click on that and basically think of it this way. Everything in the selected fields that you see right here, this is what's in your quick search now. So I'm gonna pull out my full address here. Everything over here are available fields that you can add in. By the way, there's tens of thousands of available fields. But let's use our full address for a moment. If I want to add full address to my quick search so I can use that, all I'm going to do is type in the keyword full. It's going to bring up full addresses. I add it in. And I really like that field. I use it a lot. So that's something I'm going to put right up here at the top. You can actually rearrange these. I talk to so many agents who are like, oh my gosh, I have to scroll all the way down when I want to enter that particular field. No, move that up. We don't have time for all that. I want to be able to tab my way through, enter the top criteria that I'm always searching on, and make it a lot more efficient. All you have to do is then hit apply. And what you're going to find now is full addresses is right here at the top for you. So you can move them in any order. If there's something you don't like let's say you're like, what is this original MLS field? I'm not going to use that. Well, then all you have to do is simply check it and then remove it. Maybe I want to add zip code, like my example yesterday from Detroit. I'm going to go ahead and hit zip, add, and then I can drag and drop it anywhere I want in this list. So again, don't be afraid to make this work best for you. If acreage is what you're doing, add in acreage. If you want year built in your quick search, you can add it there as well. So quick recap, because I'm going to cover a lot today. By the way, I am recording this class. So if you miss anything or you need to jump ahead or you get a call and you have to step away for a minute and you're like, oh, that lady with the fuzzy hair, where did she say to go? Don't worry, I'm recording this. I'm going to show you how you can get to this recording starting tomorrow. So if you miss anything, you can always see it again. All right, so just kind of a recap, power search at the top, great for one property, one address, one agent. Quick search, need to find something fast. Got a client who called, gave me a bunch of addresses. One thing I forgot to mention, in that quick search, that full addresses field, you can copy and paste into that too. So let's say Lisa just had someone email her 10 addresses. She's got the email in front of her. What I do to kind of simplify it a little bit, if you hit forward on that email, it basically opens up the email, like you're going to respond, right? It means you can also edit the text. I go down to the addresses and I just make sure there's a comma in between the addresses. I copy those things in paste them into that full addresses field, and guess what? That works too. Again, you can paste up to 30 addresses in quickly, pull them all up, and then with one click, you can send them out to your clients via text or via email, or just review them or start setting up showings on them. So it makes it a whole lot more simple. So again, that full address, you can email, you can type them in manually. It just makes it easier for us as agents to find it quick. Okay, but really, so those are great, and those are great if you're in a hurry. But what about the real searching? I mean, let's face it, the most of our searching is for a particular buyer, right? I'm also going to show you how to take that search that is more detailed and set it up into an auto prospecting, because right now there is no inventory, right? And so buyers are really struggling to find what they're looking for. I was running some sales numbers yesterday and I was hoping it was going to be more encouraging, but it's really not. So when those houses hit the market, I want my buyer to know about them immediately. And I want my buyer to be able to say, yeah, I want to see it. And I want it to shoot it to me with the time he's available to see it, so I don't have to call him. And I want to be able to, again, schedule those appointments right from there. So I'm going to show you how using the Collab Center, just by creating a search for your client, will do all of those things for you. All right, so where do we do that? The most of our searching as agents, quite honestly, is just going to be under the search icon. And this is where we can do more detailed searches. Like if Lisa Nolf's client said to her, hey, I want an attached garage with a finished basement, and that's really important to me. And Lisa's not going to set them up with a search that's just open, and now they're getting all these unfinished basements, and they're calling her saying, hey, Lisa, why are you sending me these? I said I really need this, right? We want to specify exactly what our buyers' haves and wants are. Now, don't get too crazy these days because there's not enough inventory as it is, but I want you to know how to customize it so if they have a particular have or want, it's automatically going to send that to your buyer. You're going to be able to CC it. You can be CC'd on it. You can also see it in the history, but like I said, it automatically communicates with you, the agent. Under search, a lot of people don't realize this is also where you can search for your own inventory. I recommend doing that because let's say that Lisa just closed a property yesterday and she didn't get credit for the sale. And a lot of times, especially if they're with a neighboring MLS, they may not take the time to actually find the appropriate name in their roster. So it's really important you do check your inventory. Are you getting credit for all of your sales? I check mine quarterly. It's a really good idea. You can also find tours and open houses. This is where you can go and find your saved searches for your clients, searches that you may have set up for yourself or your client. Really, in the majority of the time we're working with our buyers, we want to go in and we want to search by the type of home or property that they're looking for. So in this case, we're going to set up a new buyer with a residential or single family home search. Okay. By the way, you can also customize the layout here. As you can see, I've got zip code here. You probably don't. This was from my training yesterday. I don't generally search on zip code, but I did list a Detroit property recently, and I can understand why that's so helpful. But here, it's just basically asking you to put in what you're looking for your client. So under type, if you don't know what goes in that particular field, all you're going to do is click on that magnifying glass to the right. I'm going to say, it's just asking me, what are they looking for, a condo or a single family home? I've also added full addresses here. You don't have to. It doesn't come out of the box that way, but you can always add it here too. All right, here is your first big time-saving tip, something that I did not know for a really long time. And when I found it, I was like, oh my gosh, why don't we teach this in the class? This is really helpful stuff. So your first big tip here is, and I'll give you kind of examples because that's the way it will make the most sense, I think. In my brain, I assumed that there would be in the state of Michigan one Clinton Township. Okay, I was wrong. There are 5 Clinton Townships. Now remember, you're looking for data all around the state now. And so how do you know when you type in the word Clinton Township, which is the Clinton Township for Macomb County, which is the one up in the UP, and which one is over by Cadillac? A little confusing, right? And if you set up the wrong area, your buyer's clearly not going to see the right houses, right? So kind of a quagmire, like what do you pick from this list? So here's a simple tip. and I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. If you go to county and you start typing in a particular county, like we'll use Macomb, I can see the county identifier for Macomb is 50. Okay, so that helps a little bit. I know that the Clinton Township, or the Clinton Township, helps if I put it in the right field, that I'm looking for is going to start with a 50. So as I start typing in Clinton Township, I know this one is going to be the one in Macomb County. Kind of makes sense, right? Because that identifier is always the first two numbers. An easier way, though, is if I only want to see the Clinton Township in Macomb County, I could go down to the county field, type in the word Macomb. Now, when I go to the area that I'm looking for, I only see that one Clinton Township. So I don't have to go through that big long list. By the way, Clinton Township is not the only city. You'll see multiple cities, like Roseville. There are multiple Rosevilles. So that's an easy way. But I'm not really showing you for that reason. I'm showing you I'm getting somewhere with this. So for me, if I have a client who says, you know what, I really like Macomb County. I really like Oakland County, but there are 3 or 4 cities in that big long list that I don't. I'm not interested in maybe East Point. I'm not looking for Fraser. I'm looking for the rest, but I don't like maybe 1 or 2 of those cities. Well, the last thing you want to do is go to the area field and start typing in 72 cities in those 2 counties, right? That wouldn't make any sense. So here's a tip. If you go over to the magnifying glass to the right next to area, okay, and let's say we'll use Macomb County. You could do multiple counties with this, but I'm going to say this particular buyer or investor said to me, Colleen, I want to see everything in Macomb County. So I'm going to put in that Macomb County identifier, right? 50. But I'm going to change it from contains to begins with, because I want to see everything that starts with 50. Now I can see right here, there are 26 cities in Macomb County. Okay, so I'm going to change this. I'm going to make this 50 on a page so we can see them all at once. So I'm going to say that this investor says, I want to see everything in Macomb County, except I'm not interested in East Point, Fraser, or Chesterfield. I'm just grabbing 3 at the top of the list. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Do you see how it just plugged in every one of those cities for you very quickly, minus those 3, without having to manually go in and type or go in and draw a bunch of shapes to exclude the areas you didn't want? It's really set up so that, and you can do that with multiple counties. You could do Macomb and Oakland, and then just remove the ones in Oakland County they didn't want. It just makes it a little bit easier to add a lot of information quickly. All right, so hopefully that helps a little bit. If you make a mistake, if you didn't mean to add something, keep in mind everything you've added into criteria up to now is right here in this criteria summary box. So if you want to remove it, all you have to do is hit the X. You're good to go. So I'm going to say I'm setting this up for a buyer. He only wants to see houses that are for sale. And in this case, I'm going to include all actives for him. Now, here's the thing about actives. And I'm just going to be totally candid here. That's why they love and hate me at the MLS, right? Because I'm just going to tell you my thoughts. We have to do a better job as agents educating our clients because they're exposed to so much on Zillow and Realtor.com and these other sites. And if we're not educating them, these poor buyers who are already writing multiple offers and sometimes losing out on multiple homes, they don't know what an ABO is. Okay, they just don't. Let's face it. An ABO is my least favorite status in the world because it's fake. In my opinion, ABO is accepting backup offers. Well, guess what? In the Red Book law that you adhere to as a realtor, we always accept backup offers, and we have to present all offers to the seller, whether you get them in the beginning or the end. You have it. You still are responsible for presenting any and all offers to the seller. So we always accept it back. It's not like we're ever going to say, well, it's pending, so we can't even look and don't bother sending it. No, if they send it and you have it, well, then you have it, right? So in my opinion, accepting backup offers is a little tricky to our clients because they don't realize there is in fact an accepted offer on that property. It is really a pending property that is pretending to be active out there. They're going to continue to allow to show it. But if your buyers have lost out on three houses and you show them an ABO, you might want to break the news to them that there's actually a pending offer on that property and you may not get it. Most probably in this market, you will not. And they don't know that. And they write an offer, you send it over, and now you find out it's an ABO. So it's very important that we understand those ABO statuses as well as coming soon. Clients are constantly seeing coming soons on Zillow, and we want them to see them coming from us. That's why I love the Collab Center. But what does that mean? That means that in the coming soon status, no one can show it, not the listing agent, not the team who listed it, not the brokerage. It means that it is basically not available until that activation date. Now, so what is that activation date? Well, every coming soon is required to have an activation date. It cannot be more than 7 days. On day 7, it actually rolls over into an active listing automatically. Now, it doesn't have to be 7 days, so that's the tricky part. It could be 2 days, it could be 3 days. The whole idea of coming soons and why coming soons were developed was kind of to level the playing field, although I don't know that it's really done that. But what was happening is, and you've probably read about NARS Policy 8 and clear cooperation. And what was happening is agents were going in, they were pounding their sign into the front lawn. And great agents like Lisa, like myself, like everyone on the call, driving along with their buyers, and the buyers say, you know what, Lisa, I really like that house. Let's get in and see that house. So Lisa, calls the listing agent because she can't find it in the MLS. It's not there, right? Third call to the listing agent, fourth call to the listing agent. And guess what? Finally goes into the MLS and it's pending, right? With the listing agent conveniently. So really what coming soon was designed to do is if you start advertising a property in any way, a Facebook post, a sign in the window, a sign in the front lawn, whatever advertising you do, if it is out there, even if your clients, by the way, start posting it on Facebook, that counts too. If that sign is in the lawn, you have 24 hours to get that into the MLS, because you can have to those 7 days to be coming soon. But if you're using that coming soon status, you have 24 hours to get it into the MLS so that other agents can show it on. And really, it was designed to be fair to that seller so that other agents are able to submit offers, not just the listings. That's kind of what it came from. It's a Reader's Digest version, if you will. But it's important that we educate our buyers on what these statuses mean. So for me, if I'm setting up a buyer, I generally do not include the ABOs because they're having a hard enough time just getting a property when they're writing, especially if you have like a buyer. My last two buyers have been VA financing, and in this market, it's a little tough. So, all right, so we've got our statuses in there. The next thing I obviously want to put in is my haves and wants for the buyer. So if they're only looking for a ranch, well, I might want to go in and enter one story. If they say we can't do the stairs anymore, we're looking for a one story, that's really important to them. Obviously, I want to add that in. Let's say that they're looking for 3 to 4 bedrooms. Maybe the husband says, you know what, Lisa, I've got 5 daughters. I haven't had a hot shower in, like 2 years. We need at least 2 full baths. Well, you can actually, there is a field for full bath and half bath, or there's a total bathrooms field. So let's say that they're looking for between 2 and 3. You can do that. Are they looking for a basement? But then there's that level of detail. Maybe they tell Lisa, and I hope you don't mind, I'm using you so much, Lisa, but maybe they tell Lisa that they only want a finished basement. They're not going to consider anything else, and that's really important to them. Well, Lisa doesn't want to send them a bunch of basements that aren't finished, right? So that's where the extra level of searching detail comes in. By the way, you can also search by financing type. If you have someone, I just had this call this morning, an agent called and said, I have a guy who only wants to buy land contract. How the heck do I find that? That's another thing you can search on is if you don't want to send them a bunch of stuff that the seller are never going to consider land contract on in this market, well, you can actually check land contract. And if the seller has agreed to those terms, it'll pop up in their search. So let's take a look at that. So next we're going to go down. Do they want a garage? Yes. Basically putting in all of our have and wants. What's our minimum square feet that they want to have? And then here's the key though. In adding those levels of details, it's really under the features. Now, I caution you in this market, you don't want to have so many features that you don't get any search results, right? So you don't want to be like, oh my God, they got to have multiple fireplaces. And, because you're going to, in this market, it might be a little more challenging to get anything that way. But you do want to put in there what they really express to you is important. So in this case, under features, there is must have, must not have, and must have at least one of these to show up automatically in my buyer search. So let's take a look at that. So let's use our finished basement example. If the client says to Lisa, must have a finished basement, well, then all she has to do is start typing in a keyword and she can say, okay, it must have a finished basement and apply it. Just had a client, we closed in Lenox Township, and because it's Macomb County, it's a pass and fail well and septic, right? So she found out she was going through a divorce. It was kind of a terrible story. But the problem was she had a septic and the husband had said it was a newer septic. Well, it turns out it was not newer. And he also, to make matters worse, put a pool on top of it, which crushed a lot of the drainage area. And this is not good. So she found out right before closing that she was going to have to put in a raised engineered septic field in the amount of $17,000. So she said to me when she called me to find her new home, she said, Colleen, do not show me one house with a septic field. I don't want to see a septic field. I don't want to ever hear about septic fields again. I'm not going to maintain a septic field. So must not have. Guess what we did? We put in must not have a septic field. Nothing with a septic field then went out to her. And by the way, that's a required field. So it was very, very accurate. And then the next one is must have at least one or more. Maybe you have a client who says, I have a home business. I either need a pole barn or an oversized lot to build a pole barn. You can actually do that. But how do you know, because there's tens of thousands of features, how do you know what feature is what and what is it called? And because they can be called all different things. So little tip here, go over to the right where your magnifying glass is. And if I'm looking for a finished basement, pretty easy. I go to basement, I go to finished, must have, done. You can see how easy that is. Let's do garage type. Maybe they specify to you, let me find garage type in this tiny, there we go. My eyes are not that good today. Maybe they specify to you that they want to have just an attached garage. Here's where you're going to find that extra level of detail. Or let's use that boat example. You have a client and he says, Lisa, I just want to be able to park my boat at my house. I don't care if it's canal frontage. So he says, I don't care if it's canal frontage. I don't care if I am, right on the lake, or if I new mouse is very touchy. Or if if I just need to be on the river to get to Lake St. Clair. Maybe I want river frontage or just having a steel seawall in front of my home. That will work. The idea is you can put one or more, and no matter what the agent selected, as long as it has at least one of those items, it's going to go over to your client. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I know I always had a lot of questions like, how do the features work? So that's kind of a features 101, if you will, on adding in those haves and wants for your client. So again, all you have to do is go to that features area. You're going to click into that particular feature. Oh, one more I wanted to show you was the financials, how they were purchasing. So it's financial terms here. If you have a client, again, who can only purchase must have VA contract terms, this is a way to eliminate them getting a bunch of stuff that you didn't want them to get. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we've added in our clients' haves and wants. Let me show you another thing that I did not know for the longest time, and quite honestly, I still don't love. So I'm just going to show it to you. In the bottom section, see this line here, the secondary criteria? Did you know there's a bunch of really good fields in there that you can take out and move up in your search? Let me show you. If you click this drop down, because right now, if you click on it, nothing happens, right? I'm at the bottom of my search. But if you click this drop down feature where it says secondary criteria, guess what? It opens up a whole bunch of stuff that we really need as agents, in my opinion. One would be acreage. This is something we search on all the time. Why the heck it's in the second box? I'm not sure. Bathrooms full, bathrooms half. That seems pretty important. These are all things that you can actually take out of this stupid secondary box and put up in your search if you want to. Zip code was down here, to be frank, and I used that yesterday, so I moved it up in my search. But really, really easy to customize where you want these things to fall. If you constantly want to search on your built, you can add that up in the top. You don't have to scroll down all the time to get to this stupid secondary box. So you can go to customize right here at the top, fields, and let's say you wanted, we'll use that, what did I say? Acreage. We'll use acreage. So acreage happens to be in that secondary box. Don't want acreage in the secondary box. So all I'm going to do is select it and remove it from the secondary. Guess what? Now I want to add it to the primary. So all I have to do is say, yep, want to add acreage to the primary. Click. I've added it. Always drops it at the bottom, by the way, but now I can move that anywhere I want in my search. Simply apply it. These are fields we search on all the time. They should not be segregated down in that little box. Bring them up, put them in the order you want. You don't want to have to scroll past a ton of stuff to get what you're looking for. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you, I'm just going to show you a quick example. If you, let's say, lost internet connection with this storm that we're having outside of my window, that could happen. So let's say you wanted to pull up that last search that we just did. You can actually just click on last search, and it's going to show you 15 of your last history searches. So you can go back and add in that criteria. So I'm going to add in a little bit different criteria because I want to show you a couple really good examples. So let's say you're on the flip side of this. We were kind of talking about setting up a buyer, and we're going to do that. But let's kind of flip this around. As I mentioned, Lisa in my neighborhood has a lot of signs all over, which, she's from my brokerage, so that's a good thing. And so when she is listing properties, she is obviously doing all of her homework, and she wants to obviously find listing comparables that are apples to apples. So if you've never done a CMA before, because I noticed we do have a couple new people on our call, when you're listing a home, you want to obviously find if it's a brick ranch and there's other brick ranches like it, you want to obviously use those as your sold comparables. But there's obviously a lot of factors to that. One of the things that you're going to look for when you're trying to find comparables is generally how many months back. Generally, I have to tell you, I hate these MLS calendars in here. So where it says closing date and you click on them and then you got to click 6 months back. An easier way to add 6 months back is it's just really helpful drop downs. Don't waste your time clicking on the calendar, clicking on a date, then clicking 6 months back, then going to the next calendar. It just takes too long. So if I'm really looking for comps, closed are obviously what I'm looking for. And in this case, I want to go 6 months back on my closed. I want to obviously put in, if it has 3 bedrooms, I want to put in 3 bedrooms. If it has 2 baths, I want to put 2 full baths. So again, using those half baths and full baths, those are very helpful too. But I want to obviously put in as much criteria as I can to find apples to apples. So the next thing is, you can see right now I've got 4,911 comps. That would be a very bad CMA, by the way, but it's because we didn't put in our most important thing, location, 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 right? So we're going to click into our map field. And this has some new tools that I'm going to show you that I really, really like. So I've got my criteria in, but I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. I want to actually find within 1 mile those comps, because in this area, that's what an appraiser is going to do. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times, like especially if you're in a rural area, don't get me wrong. If you're doing waterfront, that will be different. Sometimes you have to open up these parameters a little bit when doing a CMA. But I want to show you how to kind of comp the home like an appraiser is going to comp it. So if I go to the top of my map here, if I am listing a property at 41539 Wessel Drive, let's say, and you're going to leave off the drives, the ways, the places, because this uses Google Maps. And if you put in too much information, it's not going to work. So here's a little tip. Put in the route street name. So leave off the drives. I got 41539 Wessel, comma, the city it resides in. So this one happens to be Sterling Heights. I use this address a lot because it gives some good examples all in one property. So bear with me. Now I'm going to hit the magnifying glass because I want to relocate to right where that property is. Okay, so right here is our subject property. Now what I want to do is an appraiser is going to stay within 1 mile of that subject property. So I'm going to go to search radius right here. I'm going to hit the number 1. And what I've just done, as soon as I move my GoToWebinar box here, I've just created a 1 mile radius search, just like an appraiser is going to do. Now, if you're wondering what these circles with the numbers are, it's just that those flags were really close to each other, so they've kind of bundled them. If you move in closer, you can separate them. And all you have to do is click on that flag, and it'll show you that closed comparable. It'll also allow you to float directly into that MLS ticket right from here if you want to take a better look at it. But I want to show you some good examples here. So let's say for a moment that Lisa listed a bunch of waterfront properties. Okay, so we're going to say that we're going to pretend for a moment. I have a 10-year-old, so we do a lot of pretending in our house. We're going to pretend for a moment that this is beautiful Lake St. Clair. And Lisa has listed a bunch of $3 million waterfront homes, right? But we're trying to comp this house 10 streets off the water. And although we're excited for Lisa, it's going to mess up our CMA. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the drawing tools. Okay, you just click on the drawing tools. I'm kind of a fan of the Paragon, but of course you can use whatever's easiest for you. And what I basically want to do is, although I'm excited about Lisa listing these homes, I don't want them screwing up my numbers. So I'm going to draw a shape on a shape. And you're probably thinking, lady with the fuzzy hair, didn't you just draw a bigger shape on a, and you're right, one more step. You're going to go over to edit. And instead of including all those fancy $1 million listings, I am going to exclude them. I'm going to basically remove them so you see that comp is now gone and it's not going to screw up all of my CMA numbers. So just a little tip. A lot of people don't know that you can exclude areas. This also works for buyers. I have a lot of buyers lately that want to live in this particular area in Warren. If I set up their search with everything in Warren, they're getting a bunch of stuff that they don't want. They've already said, I don't want to live south of town. I want to live in this, what we call the Golden Triangle area lately. And that's where they want to live. So instead of putting all of Warren and getting a bunch of stuff they don't want, I could draw the area that they want, or I could select all of Warren and simply remove or exclude that one particular area that they're not interested in. So works the same way on buyers. Well, you can have to 10 shapes on your map. So let's use another example. Let's say that Lisa has a buyer, and in this case, the buyer is very interested in a home in maybe this particular subdivision. I don't like to search subdivisions anymore, and here's why. Agents, it's not a required field, and agents generally don't take the time to put in the subdivision, or they put an abbreviation of the subdivision and it doesn't make any sense, right? So here's a better way. If you're searching by subdivision, and I just had this in a class out in Flint that I recently taught, the agent said to me, Colleen, I think Paragon's broken. I said, okay, well, tell me why. And she said, well, I live in that sub. There are 4 signs for sale in that sub. I go into Paragon and 1 property shows up. And I go, okay, well, show me how you're searching. So I'm putting in the subdivision name, and that was the problem. Only one of those 4 agents had bothered to put in the subdivision name. So if you're searching by sub, here's a better way. Use the map and map out the sub, because this way it's using the property's geocode. It is not dependent on what an agent, maybe a lazy agent didn't bother to fill it in. It's still going to find it. So what happens is it uses the geocode by mapping it this way. But let's say in this case, they really like this particular sub, but their mother-in-law lives over here on the east side of Garfield, so they don't want to be too close to her. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of keep it neutral right here. I'm literally just clicking my lines everywhere I want to start and stop. By the way, you can do this up to 10 times on a map because buyers are obviously looking in more and more places. But then here's another example that came up recently. So let's say Lisa's again looking for comps, and she's excluded her waterfront, but now she only has 1 or 2 comps, and she really want to have 3 or 4 comps in her CMA to show her seller. How do you, without saying, okay, show me 2 miles and getting 5,000 comps, how do you expand it just slightly to see if there's something just on the cusp there? So what you can do is you can go back to your shapes over here. I can click in the middle. So I'm going to click in the middle of my radius. So right here, what that does is it opens up the editing. So I can pull it open just a little bit more instead of having to add a bunch of comps that maybe I didn't want. And you can see by doing that, I did add 2 more comps without adding a bunch for going 2 miles or 1.5 miles or even 1.25. It allows you to just expand it and shrink it as you need it so that you get enough comps for your CMA. So hopefully you found that helpful. When you want to close that shape up, same thing, just click on it and it's going to close that shape. Couple new things that they've added, and actually I have to give the credit to my good friend Flo Abke, who actually pointed it out to me. She called me and she said, I have a client who is a volunteer firefighter. He has to live in this particular, and it was in a northern area, and he was looking in a big area, but she said he can't live one street outside that township because they are volunteer firefighters. They only qualify if they live within the city so they can get there fast. Makes sense, right? You don't want them 5 cities away and they can't get there when there's a fire. So how do you map a search, but make sure that you stay in the lines? Because he was kind of looking in a very large area, and she's like, it covers a big span of wooded area. How do I find out is that in the municipality lines? So here's another quick tip. I'm just going to shrink my map a little for this example. If you go to the layers up here, you can add in the municipality lines. I did not know this for a long time. So if you click on municipality, it will actually show you the streets where it starts and stops. You can actually zoom in and you can actually see, oh, Hayes is that dividing line for this municipality. So this was kind of a good example. And I thought, wow, that'd be a good one for this class. So another thing, while I'm zoomed in here, so I'm going to take off the parcel lines now. But if you wanted to see, let's say Lisa's clients say, Lisa, we're going to live in a subdivision, but I don't want to live right on top of my neighbors. I want to make sure I've got a good enough amount of lot, that we're not going to like open our door and hit our neighbor. So can we look at subdivisions where the lot sizes are a little larger? So you can also go in and add the parcel lines. I'm going to zoom in and show you those too. So even if it's not a listed property, you can actually view the parcel lines and the lot dimensions. So I'm going to say they wanted to know about this property. They heard it's coming onto the market. Even though it's not listed, gives me that street view over here, and I can see the lot lines. Of course, if it's listed, you can do that exact same thing. I can click into the listing over here, and I can do that exact same thing. I can see the dimensions. I can move my map around. I can go in and see the lot size as well. So all of that is available right through the mapping. You can even label them with the parcel lines. You can do a whole bunch of things that way too. Another thing that I get asked is, well, what if you have a buyer who strongly does not want to have to pay for flood insurance? Maybe you're looking in Harrison Township and they say, you know what, Lisa, I really don't want to have to worry about flood insurance. Sometimes it's not just canal and lakefront. Sometimes it's several streets off of the water and they still have to have flood insurance. Now, I do always tell my clients, because the clients can see this too, by the way, um, we do specify this is not like an elevation cert. This is not saying for sure you won't have to have it. This is not like contacting the lender and saying, are we going to need it? It's just kind of a visual indicator using the FEMA maps. But what you can do is apply the floodplain. And as you can see, these would be areas that I visually want to stay away from if I'm setting up a buyer who does not want to pay for flood insurance. So some really helpful tools that are actually built into this map. Oh, one more. I know we see these all the time, these little yellow Google men. But if I'm getting ready to go list this property, and let's say that it's 2.5 hours away, because remember, you're covering a bigger portion of the state right now, and I'm pretty sure most people aren't turning down listings in this market. So let's say it's 2 hours away, and you kind of want to see, well, what's the neighborhood look like without having to drive all the way over and then come back and do your CMA. Another little tip, just grab this little yellow Google man. Your clients can do this in the collab center as well. Drag them in front of your listing. It'll even tell you, by the way, where you're about to set them in front of. Now I can literally walk down the street. And as you saw, I put that right in front of that house that I'm going to list. So right here is the house. You can see the pin right on it. I can actually see the house to the left. Well, kind of a tree there, but house to the right. I can literally walk down the street. I can sort of check out the neighborhood as well as my buyer can, if you're working with a buyer that you're setting up, by simply just using that little yellow Google man. Okay, so hopefully this is starting to make some sense. If we miss something, and I do this all the time, it's like my brain, I should just set it in my default. But if you got all the way to this step and you accidentally left in your leases, remember, you can always bounce back and forth. So if you've missed something or you've got no comps, you want to take out some of your criteria, don't be afraid to use these tabs at the top to bounce backwards and forwards. I'm also just going to say in this scenario that we're working with a buyer. So we're just trying to set up a buyer. He's looking for a one-story brick ranch. We're going to say in Sterling Heights. Actually, I'm going to remove our map. We're going to just do all of Sterling Heights so we get a few more properties here. And I'm going to now put in my buyer's haves and wants, things like that. So how do you set it up so your buyer automatically just gets these properties as soon as they hit the market so you don't miss one? Now, there is a whole class on this, so I don't want to overwhelm you. I promise I'm going to kind of keep it really high level just for a couple examples. But if you are interested, we have a Collab Center class. Debbie does an awesome job. Debbie's our director of education, and she does a great job with all the bells and whistles, because there's some really cool stuff that you can do in the Collab Center. I recently just closed a property with a friend of mine, Don Waldrop, and in the Collab Center, you can do things like an agent recommended. So let me kind of explain what that is. So I set my buyer up so he's automatically getting all these properties as soon as they hit the market. This particular first-time home buyers said to me, I swear, no less than 40 times, Colleen, we're only going to live in Sterling or St. Clair Shores. We're only going to live in St. Clair Shores. Don't show us anything outside of St. Clair Shores. We love the parks in St. Clair Shores. So you know what happened. They bought outside of St. Clair Shores, right? That's how it works. So the idea is I set up their search for St. Clair Shores because that's what they said. But my best friend, Don Waldrop, listed a house one street outside of St. Clair Shores. Of course, that's always the way it is, right? Saw the pictures, immediately knew that was the house, because we as agents, we a lot of times know what they're going to buy before they do, right? We know the market, we know where they're going to have to settle. Saw it, I knew they would love it, and sure enough, put it in agent recommended, popped up in front of the buyer. They looked at it, we wrote it in the kitchen, we were able to close it up. Now, that was outside of what normally comes in their search. So it was something that I had to recommend, but it worked. So it's a great way to expose your clients to maybe something they weren't quite thinking of, but a lot of times we, again, know that better. Also had another experience that you could do in the Collab Center, which is called an agent preview. Unfortunately, it wasn't as nice of an experience. Had a really great lady, just one of those people through the transaction, who just becomes a friend, and we close it up and she goes, "You did such a great job. We're having dinner." She said, "My sister just told me she's looking for a place. I'm going to send her to you." I'm like, "Oh, this is so great," right? I thought the sister would be sweet and kind like she was. Mm-mm. Polar opposite. So the sister said to me, second call, "If you send me one more yellow-sided house, I'm going to find another agent." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you didn't like yellow-sided. I don't think you ever mentioned that to me." But there is no button, by the way, in the MLS that says remove yellow-sided houses. So what we ended up doing was setting up an agent preview. It came to me. I could look at it, yellow siding, yes, no, check it off. It would automatically go to her if I approved it. So there's other tools that are also in here. So it's a great class. Strongly recommend you take it, but I'm going to show you the high level view of it right now. So we've set up our buyers' haves and wants. How do we get started in setting up that auto prospecting? So what we're going to do is we're, of course, going to search for the properties that met the criteria. When I'm searching properties like this, I've been so fortunate because I've gotten to work with many great agents over the years. Matter of fact, the majority, I would say 99% of them have been really great that I've had the opportunity to work with. There have also been a very few that if I never get a purchase agreement from them on a listing, I will totally be okay with that. I think you know what I mean. So if I see in my list here, and by the way, this is a customization, I kind of like to add the agent name, especially if their properties I'm going to be showing. Not that I wouldn't show an agent I had a bad experience. I would never do that, but I might put them at the bottom of the list versus someone like Lisa, who's a great agent, answers her phone, does a great job. I want to put her at the top of the list, right? Because I don't want to rush to work with that person again, right? So I might want to have Lisa at the top and then, maybe a bad experience agent, maybe down at the bottom. So I like to be able to see who has it listed right from my spreadsheet view. By the way, when your results come up, you can tweak these. How if I want the address first next to the MLS number and picture, all you have to do is drag those columns the way you want them, the order you want them. It will remember it. If you want to add agent name, again, I strongly recommend you do that. If you go to customization, you can go into fields, and all you have to do is check the group that says agent, and it will show you all that. You could put agent and agent phone number if you want. There's a bunch of different ones, but it makes it easier for me to visually see exactly who's got the property listed. If you wanted to text all these, by the way, very, very easy. I know some MLSs, it's a little difficult to text. I want to be able to just check it off, go up to share, hit the text option. If you already have a contact in there, you could pick that contact, or you could simply just add in a phone number and name and text them out that way. So really easy, right under the share button. But if you remember, these were ones that we were going to set up for our buyer to automatically get any new matches. So basically, a welcome comes out to the buyer from you. It's got these potential homes for them to look at, and then anything new from that point forward is going to give them an email reminder, hey, there's a new property with your name. Because quite honestly, they get really excited these days when a new property hits the market with their criteria. So how do we set up that buyer? Well, we did all the hard work. It's literally saving the search, which we're going to do, and marrying it to the contact. It's that simple to turn on the Collab Center. So we've got all our properties here. We're going to go to the toolbar. We're going to hit Save Search As. What do you want to name it? I'm going to call this Lisa's Saved Search. All you got to do now is marry it to the contact record. So I'm going to say Lisa's not in here yet. She's a new client. And I'm going to put in Lisa's email address. And I don't know what it really is, so I'm just going to pretend here. Nader.com. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, what that just did is it married her haves and wants to her email address so that those new listings can be sent out. Lastly, I just want to hit the save and notify button. And that's going to allow me now to set up that Collab Center. If Lisa's looking in a big area, maybe she doesn't want those constant notifications. You could set them to go to that client maybe every other day or once a week at a certain 9 a.m. So you can even set when you want those notifications to go out. And you can do that for yourself too, so that you can be BCC'd on them once a week and see everything that went out to your clients, which I like. Lastly, I'm just going to go ahead and send that welcome message. It does generate a pre-written message. You can go into your options and put in something different if you'd like, but all I really need to do is hit send, and that welcome message is going to go over to Lisa. If you've ever downloaded apps on your phone, you know how when you download a new app, it kind of gives you like a clear layover and it says to favorite, click this button, to reject, click this. It does the same thing. It sort of gives them a little quick tutorial of what it is. But this is why I like it. Let me show you what the client gets. Much easier to read than those reports out of the MLS. So I'm just going to show it to you. I really love the Collab Center because of the way it displays properties to the clients. By the way, you can see their Collab Center and you can see exactly like them. All you have to do is go to your contacts, click on View and Manage Your Contacts. That'll show you everybody with the Collab Center. Now, if I want to see Lisa's Collab Center site, I can just click on View and go right in as Lisa. And I think you'll like the way it looks. But it also shows me when I added them, when they last logged in. So I can see Barry Buyer last logged in today. And I can also see the last notification went out to them today. I can see how many homes they favorited. I can see how many homes they rejected, but I'll show you some cool things with the favorites in just a second. If I want to see those properties I just sent Lisa in the Collab Center, just like Lisa's going to see it, I can click on View their Collab Center, and it's going to show me each property just like they're going to see it. I can go into View the Detail for each home. I can blow up the photos. I can do that street view. I can access the seller's disclosures and lead-based paint as the client. Use the mortgage payment calculators. But here's where I really like it. So normally, let's say Lisa saw this and she goes, oh, I think that's the one. She can actually favorite that. And I tell my clients, just favorite it. And she can also put in the time and date she wants to see it instead of me getting it. Because when they favorite it, by the way, it goes directly to you as the agent. Now, what I have to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, Lisa, when are you available to see it? She goes, I don't know. Let me call Mr. Schmagegi. I'll find out when he's available and we'll call you back. Right? Instead, just have them put in the time and date they want to see it. It does not schedule the appointment. It simply sends that time and date to you as the agent, so you now can set up their showing time appointments. They can go through each and every home. They can ask questions. They can mark it as rejected. They can set up subfolders. By the way, they can share an account, so a husband and wife or partners can actually go in and see the same account, leave notes on things. So it's got some cool functionality. Again, whole class on this. Don't feel like because I know I'm kind of going fast to get through it. But let me show you why I like this so much. I mean, yes, it's very easy. Let's face it, it's much easier for them to digest than those MLS sheets we've sent in the past, right? But here's why I actually like it. It's easy for the clients to navigate, gives them a great amount of information. But on the agent side for you, it saves you a ton of time and work. And here's why. If I look at my client, Megan Diaz's favorites, okay, she's favorited 6 properties right now. If I click on that number 6, what it does is it shows me the agents who have them listed. I can say, okay, she wants to see these 6, and she says she's available at 3 o'clock tomorrow to see them. I check them all, and here's the magic button. Right up here where this plug is, it says Actions. And I don't know if you've used this before, but it's one of my absolute all-time favorite tools. If I click on Showing Time, it's going to allow me to create what we call a Showing Time cart. So I'm going to say I want to create a new Showing Time cart. And I'm going to show them tomorrow to Barry Buyer. And it's going to drop all of those listings into the cart for me. Now, if I look down here at the map, with gas still being as high as it is, I am not going to want to drive it in that order. See, 1, 5, 3, I'm driving all over, right? That would not make sense. So what I want to do is I want to hit this Smart Route button. Instead of me grabbing my phone and figuring all of those out, where do I need to start? Where's going to be the most? It's actually going to do that for me. Now you can see it's in a much more logical order. I also like this because if I'm running out last minute, I might want to start with a go and show, which means I'm going to get the lockbox immediately. I don't have to wait for the appointment to be confirmed. So I can drag that up so that, if we're running out last minute to go show these, I don't want to be standing on the porch waiting for my appointment to be confirmed, right? It also shows you in a quick glance if something's blocked out or not available at a time you might want to see it. It also shows you the driving minutes. So it's going to take me 5 minutes to get from property A to property B, but it's going to take me 25 minutes to get from 5 to 6. So I want to make sure I'm leaving myself enough time, especially with electronic lock boxes, right? So from here, maybe I want to show the first property. So I'm going to say I'm going to be showing this property at 11:15. So now I know my next one's very close, so I can go ahead and schedule that for maybe 11:30 to 11, or maybe to 12, whatever we want. Then all I have to do, is hit send requests. Helps if you put in the time, Colleen. So we're going to do 11:30 to 12 o'clock. And save. Now, when I send all of the requests, they can be confirmed at one time. But of course, I seem to attract the challenging buyers lately. Maybe it's the fuzzy hair, not sure. But of course, you get your tour all set up, and guess what happens? They call and they go, "Great news, Colleen, I found one more house on Zillow this morning." So you can actually go in and add an additional listing. So you can click add another listing in. Or maybe you're taking them to a restaurant in between 3 and 4, you can actually add that in. You can add the restaurant address in, and that way you can put that in your driving directions. So once everything's been confirmed, I can do turn-by-turn driving directions, send them right over to my client's phone so they're not calling me and saying, "Hey, which property was saying first again? Which one's third?" You can actually send them directions so that they can actually navigate right from their phone. So hopefully you can see the benefit, and all of that came from me just clicking on that contact record. Remember, I clicked on the number 6 for the favorites, and it then is going to allow me to drop all of those into the showing time cart. All right, so a whole class on that, but that's kind of the high level overview. And I know you're probably thinking by now, lady with the fuzzy hair, you talk so fast. How am I going to remember all this? Well, remember, we're recording this. And so you can go back and watch it as much as you need. So where do you find those recordings? So we tried to make it easy. We tried to keep everything within Paragon. And remember, your Paragon toolbox is called Resources. This is where all your tools are. If you go to Resources, under the Education Center, you're going to find, sorry about the background noise, recorded webinars. That's going to take you right to our YouTube channel that we set up. So all you have to do to make it really easy, if you're looking for Paragon tips and tricks, click on the playlist. We've got them all organized and they have a date next to them. So you can actually look for 8/24 and it's going to show you today's class. And that way you can see this exact one down the road. So all you have to do is, we have a bunch of different classes here, by the way. But just find this particular class, which is going to be Paragon. I hope I didn't pass it here. As you can see, there's Kubacasa, our new floor plan program, Paragon MLS system. So all you're going to do is click on the playlist. It'll show you Paragon time-saving tips. It'll have today's date after. It'll be live tomorrow. And then all you have to do is click on it, and that video will start to play and walk you through. So you can fast forward to any parts that you may have missed, or maybe you need a little refresher on. So let's face it, we don't set up searches every single day, right? So if you do this 2 weeks from now, you might need a quick refresher. So that's why we set up that video library. So hopefully, yeah, that is helpful. The last thing I want to show you, again, other than resources, there is classes on everything. If you love fast stats, we have a lead generation class. We have a photography class taken, and it's actually someone who has a degree in photography on how to, it's really funny because I took it and I thought I took pretty good photos, but then I took her class and man, I realized there were so many things I didn't know. Like when you take pictures of hallways or bridgeways, a lot of times they look short and dumpy, and there are these beautiful long. She shows you how to add more aperture and light into your shot to get that length. Or how when you're in a tiny powder room, not to be in the mirror or not to have your toilet like front and center, how to actually angle off of the counter using the mirror to get the full room. So really, really great classes. All of our classes, except the welcome class, are complimentary for members so that you can take them as many times as you need. But it's a really cool class. All right, then lastly, the one quick tip. I just added this into the class because I thought, oh my gosh, this is another good one. Why don't we know this? If you are doing a particular action and it is causing you to go, let's say you are particularly searching for residential. You go in and you can click on search, you can go to your saved property searches, or you can click on residential. What if I told you there's a speed bar to set helpful things up that you do quite commonly? And it's actually right here at the bottom of Paragon. I don't know if you can see this. It says cloud, zip form, saved property searches. These are all things that I use quite often. If there's something like maybe you want to go right to your saved property searches without having to do extra clicks, you can actually add those things to your speed bar right down below. So let me show you how easy it is to set up your own, and it can be all your own stuff. So all you have to do is there's a little gear down here at the bottom in the speed bar. Click on that gear and then just decide what you want it to be. So let's say, here's a good example. I'm going to take out partials because I never really use that. I just kind of keep them in here to show. Let's say you wanted to be able to quickly find properties by agent or brokerage. I can check that off, hit add, and I can find it right from here. And by the way, if there's something in resources, let's say that you want to quickly go into transaction desk or Authentisign, or maybe you wanted to quickly go to those recorded webinars and you wanted a little tag down there at the bottom. All you have to do is check what you want to be part. And so I think I have, I'm going to take out zip form real quick. So I'm going to remove zip form here. I'm going to say I want to go directly into Authentisign with one click. Simply add it, hit save. At the bottom, when I'm ready to go into my Authentisign documents to quickly have things signed, I don't have to go into Transaction Desk and then click on Authentisign. It takes me right there. So hopefully you've picked up, excuse me, hopefully you've picked up a few helpful tips today to make searching a little faster, a little bit easier. Excuse me, a little easier. And I would love your feedback. If there's something that you need covered in a little more depth, feel free right now to throw that in the questions box. If there's something you learned and you're excited about it, throw that in the questions box. So we do love that feedback. So remember that speed bar at the bottom of Paragon, you can customize up to 6 things to be down there. It'll take you directly in. Remember your power search at the top, great for finding one thing fast. Don't forget to add full addresses over here to your quick search. And features and the Collab Center are so helpful when you're working with buyers. So hopefully you picked up a couple things. I don't see anything in our questions box. I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and add in any questions you may have. I kept us 5 minutes under, or 3 minutes under. I did pretty good. So if you have any last minute tips or you picked up anything that you want to share, that's great. Put that in the questions box. Remember, you do have tech support that is available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's free. Most of them are real life agents just like myself, so they're familiar with maybe what you're trying to do. We didn't want to just hire a bunch of tech people because we wanted people who are really working in the industry, who have those tips and tricks, if you will, from actually using the programs. So hopefully you found this beneficial. I don't see anything in the questions box, so I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for your time. Happy selling, everybody, and go list, list, list. We need a lot more inventory. Have a great day, everybody.